I'm pretty big on communication. We want open communication and collaboration. I think any team, whether you're talking about my old basketball teams or whether you're talking about our department, I think when everybody feels like they're part of it and they have their input heard, I think the team functions better. The fact that when team members or department members feel like they're empowered and they're trusted to go do their job, I think that is it makes them stronger individuals. It makes our whole department stronger. I said the hard thing, when I think about my coaching days, the hard thing is sometimes we talk about, coach, you don't got my back. Well, I have your back, but again, we have to talk about the right things that need to be done. Sometimes I think we as humans, we get stuck into, well, they don't think I'm doing a good job. Well, it's not that. It's what you're doing is not working. Can we tweak it a little bit? What can we do to make it better? Let's talk about it. Let's find a way, because ultimately, in our department, I want every coach to have success. I want them to have success for graduation. I want them to have success for wins and losses. I want them to have success for their players going on and doing great things. So how can we help? Now I'm not in the position where I'm working with my guys and, okay, you need to shoot better. You need to work on your economics class. I'm kind of behind the scenes with the coaches. How can I help those coaches and give them the power to help their teams? So I think communication is very big. I think collaboration is big, and we're throwing in teamwork with that, that we're all working and pulling in the same direction. Those are the keys. And then when it comes to, how do I make them feel empowered? Well, that's where the communication hopefully is the factor, and we can talk about things. It's not just, hey, I want to do this, and if I say no, it doesn't mean I don't have confidence in me. We can't do that right now. My old boss, Coach Harley, talked about hire good people, let them go do their job. And that's what we want to do. Obviously there's some things that come into play there. Okay, this is the budget I can give you. You know what I mean? You got to stay within this budget. I can't just let you go do your job, and you have to be able to stay within this. And as a team versus individuals, one of the things that is very important for a team is, you're setting goals, and those are team goals. My best teams were the groups that they didn't, people scored points because they had to, people got rebounds because they had to, you got people that finished all conference, but every day when we went to practice, and more importantly when we went to the games, all the individual goals were set aside, and those were kind of products of the team's success. So I think as a group, you want to let the baseball coach his baseball team, and the softball coach your softball team, and so on and so forth. But we're all one team. We're pulling for one thing, which we have done a great job of. Our GPA through the roof, and that's a department goal, and that's something we've done. Our ASR rate through the roof. Now we have teams winning championships and going to national tournaments. That's our direction that we want to go to. But as it's hard to separate it from the basketball to our department, because of the basketball, you're going to play and we're all going to try to win. We know we wanted to hold the other team to so many points and get so many rebounds, and that's what got us our wins. In our department, it's a little more difficult because you got multiple different sports having to do different things, and each one takes a little bit different thing. The biggest key is that we have to define our culture, and meaning we have to define what we want out of our department, and we have for the academic side. But now, I don't think we've ever laid down as a department what our goals should be from a on the field and court standpoint. You have to have realistic goals, and you have to set them and then reach them. And then the key is then to change the goals and push them higher. You don't just say, hey, we want to win 10 games this year. You win 10 games and you got 5 to go, and you say, oh, we got our goal. You always want to push that envelope a little bit higher. So, to answer your question, it's we want to get good individuals in here, good coaches in here working on our team, and we want to kind of turn them loose and kind of give them some direction and try to give them support, whether that be conversation and dialogue back and forth on how I can help them, or whether it's the resources that we're still working on. My most successful teams, obviously, I think the big thing was their communication, and not just with each other, but with me. I look back at the 2003 team, went to Elite Eight, and then the more recent Sweet 16 team. And not only did that group, both those groups speak to each other a lot and communicate on the field or court and off the court, but they also communicated to me on how I could help them in a big way. I mean, we had, on both of those groups, we had those kind of player meetings that they called me in and told me what they need. And that communication was two-way. So then we could sit down and we could hash things out and see ways I can support them better. And it's the same thing in our department here. You know, when coaches come in and want to talk about an issue they have, that's the best way we can have a dialogue. Because then not only do I know what they want or think they need, but they know that I'm listening to it and I'm trying. Now, usually in those meetings, we walk out of there and we, you know, I was the coach then, I'm the AD now. We say, hey, we can do A and B that you're thinking about. Let's try to do, but we can't do C and D. So, and then they have to then buy into that and say, okay, well then let's do the best we can with that. I think communication was a big thing on both those teams. Like I said, not just amongst themselves and on the court and, you know, offensively and defensively, but to me on how I could help them and how I could support them. And you know, I think that was translated by their performance on the courts. You know, I look back at Josh's championship a few years ago, and I'm not in the dugout with him hearing that, but I know those kids all came in together, and I know the communication because I talked to a few of them about what they talked about during their first few years, you know, when they were going through some tough times and stuff like that, and what they wanted to do their senior year. So I would think that there was a lot of communication going on amongst the team there, and probably, you know, his leadership on that team probably back to him, that would help him, you know, give them what they needed to have that success. So I think again, when I'm thinking back at it now, you know, communication is such a big key, and then collaboration, because when everybody feels like they're part of something, you know, whether it's our campus here, whether it's our athletic department, or whether it's your team, there's more buy-in. You know, they feel like they're being listened to and they feel like they're supported. So, you know, again, COVID's been a difficult time for that because we've had to have so many no's and so many cancellations that people don't feel like you don't care. They feel more like you don't care about me, and that's not the case. You know, I think every decision that was made during this time is the opposite. It's because we want the safety of the whole campus. And again, talk about a team. Now, the whole campus is a team. So, you know, unfortunately, it's not what we want right now, but it was what's best for the whole campus, the big team. You know, my last 2 years have been eye-opening. When I go on trips with the golf team, or when I go on trips with the tennis team, I've been on trips with the sailing team. You don't, from the outside, you think, well, what do they do? You know, that can't be hard, and we're doing all this. Well, it's not. They all have their own intricate things that they have to do to get from the beginning of the year to championship performance, you know, and get to the national championship. So I think that's something we can do better as a department. We have to start learning what each other do. You know, you don't see somebody in the office for a little while, but then you find out that they're out doing lessons with their players, or they're coaching their players on the courts. You know what I'm saying? Or you have another one that you don't see, and you find out they're on the road for 3 days recruiting, trying to bring up. So I think that's easy to get caught up in our own world, and especially in a year like this with COVID, that everything I'm doing is working, but they're not really working hard. We don't know what each other do. You know, believe me, I didn't know what an athletic director did. I thought I did until the last 2 years. So again, knowing, you know, kind of learning other people's jobs and what their responsibilities are and what their duties are, you know, it will help a department, will help our team, our athletic department team. I would definitely say I would characterize our department right now as a work in progress. I think it's going in the right direction, and I think prior to COVID, our momentum was all great, from the fundraising side to the team side to the developmental side to our scholarshiping and our success on the fields and courts and in the classrooms. But I think we have some things to improve on. You know, like I said earlier, that I think that learning each other's jobs a little more and knowing what other people do could be important to the overall welfare and teamwork of our department, because I think some people assume they know and they think, well, I'm doing all these things, and they're not, but they don't really know what other people have to do on a daily basis. Everybody's doing the work in the classroom. So all of our teams are very successful in doing what they need to be doing in the classroom. You know, we still have to make sure we maintain, you know, there's always different students that need help in different classes, and Eckerd's great because of all the the coaching and stuff like that, the academic coaching that they provide, and also the tutoring that are in all different collegiums. But I would say that we're a work in progress still, and I'd like to, obviously, the resources need to continue to come, and I'd like to make sure that our department knew what each other were doing a little more. And then finally, I think we talked about earlier is, setting goals. Setting goals for each season, I think, is something we don't do well enough. I think each coach does it, but I think as a department we can do better when we have our staff meetings and stuff like that. So we have some goals that we're trying to reach, and they have to be attainable. And any goal we set, you can say I want to win a national championship every year, and that's ultimately what you want to do. But that's when you have to readjust your goals. But my goal was always to try to win the conference or finish in the top 3, because I knew if I did that, I'd make the national tournament, and then who knows what happens then. But my players would always say, Coach, why isn't our goal to win all 22 conference games or 20 conference games? Well, I mean, that's a great goal, and it's possible to do. But when was the last time it was done? Winning the conference is an attainable goal, because when we went 16-4 or 15-5, we won the conference or we're tied for it. Those are attainable goals. So I think as a department we can do that better, and as a department we can get more resources, which kind of falls back on me. But knowing what each other do, and not assuming that you're working harder than everybody else, but in the same breath, going to work and roll up your sleeves and get it done. And then, like I said, whenever I ask for help, this department jumps in and helps with anything, any major projects we have. So we've always been good at that. The teamwork side has always been very good.